everyone, my name is Daniel, I'm just a casual racer, and today I'm going to be doing a little bit more of a nerdy video to follow up from the previous video where I just kind of did a quick race to highlight this new 2026 Madrid Street Circuit, right? Formula One just announced it yesterday, and then now we've got this thing cranked out by Nukedrop tracks within the 24 hours, and so I checked that out, talked about it more in a sim racing sense. I believe I was the first person to post a preview of the circuit level anywhere, so that's pretty cool. But now I want to dive in and kind of show more of for a racing perspective, right? So if you're really into just sim racing content only, then this might not be for you. But obviously for more racing fans, I'm going to be looking at from that perspective, using obviously this sim racing track is a great way to look and kind of analyze how the circuit might be and some of the technical challenges that Formula One and the city of Madrid are going to have to overcome in creating this course over the next 2 years, along with maybe some suggestions and things to definitely avoid. Alrighty, so if we look at the things right here, made this collage of some photos. You'll see this is generally right what Tyrone and his team had to reference. You know, they didn't have a lot of photos and stuff. Obviously, you can look at Google data and things like that to figure out some things. But like this whole section of the circuit is going to be purpose-built. And so that's another aspect that you kind of have to take some creative license with in the meantime. You know, there are some guidelines for grandstands and things, which is cool. We have a picture of kind of what they're shooting for with the garage and the paddock area. And yeah, and so if we look at the other thing that they'd be primarily referencing, which is going to be Google data here, we'll see, I've actually measured out the track in Google Maps, which is what Tyrone and his team would have done. And it comes out to the exact distance, 5.47 kilometers. And you'll see generally the layout here. And so I want to go through in this video kind of section by section and talk about each, going through what references I have, and also showing you in the version of the track by Nukedrop tracks in Assetto Corsa. So let's start with this opening area, right? So you'll notice here we have this is a garage. This is a parking lot currently, obviously going to be the primary grandstands. This area is kind of tight. You got some buildings here on the ground that they're going to have to work around, but you'll see here that this is just about enough room to put in that kind of pit area, the garages, as well as obviously kind of that premium seating area on top, which we see in that other photo. So you'll see that here, they'll have that premium area on top of these garages, and that'll be interesting to see, and interested to see also how this building will play in, if that will be kind of like part of the paddock area, media, not sure, but right, it's right here, so it'll definitely be a feature part of the circuit as the cars there race past us. So generally, right, it looks like it's going to be a pretty decent area. It's a little tight to fit everything. Perhaps, Zandvoort has one known for one of the tightest pit lane areas. They also slow down the pit lane speeds. Something like that could happen with this circuit, so we'll see, right? Now we have this, chicane here that we have going over and essentially taking the cars into the parking lot area. And so if we look on the map, right here going off, and I think actually Google here provides a really good look at this if I pull that up. So you'll see here, going over across to here and then down through this parking lot area and then turning through onto the main road here. Obviously, right, this is not going to be, maybe unless they do some modifications, the width is kind of up for creation. And obviously here could be as wide or kind of as narrow as they want in this parking lot section. And then you're getting into this street, to this high-speed corner here. And this is going to be an interesting decision by Formula One. Will they be using the entire thing, half of it? Obviously, if they use half of it, traffic can then be used during the race, can even run on this portion. I would assume they're going to use half of it, but if they do use the whole thing, then the track is much wider. There's obviously probably going to be a DRS zone here, so good opportunities for passing. And then you even get to this roundabout here, which, according to the map, looks like it's just going to be straight through. So, if we dive back into Assetto Corsa here, we navigate down this little straightaway here, and then you're going to get this kind of sweeping curve, looks like around kind of a little park area, and then you're going to be heading on to what would be, I believe, the road area. So you'll notice here that you'll have this long kind of fast stretch that'll then head into the big sweeping corner of kind of the main highway. So you got some grandstands here. If we look at the map, you'll notice there's grandstands right in there. So, replicating that here, they've done a good job of that. So then you fly along here. Now we're coming into this high-speed corner here. You're going to see it kind of comes in to end this straightaway. Interesting to see if they allow DRS to be carried through here. This portion, now we're now into here, right? Coming around this part and into this, which will be a heavy braking zone. I got the grandstand here on the right, and then a little grandstand on the left, which is also captured. And so I think that looks really good. And you'll see if we go to the Google data now. This will be this section here. So you'll sweep through. This is, I think, going to be the biggest make it or break it corner on the circuit potentially, because this opening sector here is pretty good. Sweeping corners fast, probably an opening DRS zone. This is going to be a heavy braking zone. Potential passing area. If it's a little Mickey Mouse chicane, because obviously this overpass is the concern, maybe they're going to end up making the cars go around. If that's the case, the passing opportunity could be not so great. Also, it could slow the cars down, and then you got an uphill section coming up. This whole section here is got a big uphill rise. Let me show you that in the track here. You don't see it when you look at a top down or even in the maps, but when you actually apply the height elevation data, you're going to see that there is this, nice elevation change for a street circuit. So you got here, this is, like I said, kind of the make it or break it corner. The way it's modeled here, it's fast, good opportunity for braking, maybe even a passing opportunity. Honestly, you could even model it with more of a 90-degree corner so someone could really throw it up the inside. It really depends. I think that corner and the way they handle that roundabout is going to be very critical. Because if you have a good passing opportunity or opportunity for cars to get alongside, suddenly you go under the overpass and boom, you have this great uphill climb here into the second roundabout kind of at the top of the hill. And I think now you kind of lean into the nature of the roundabout, which Nukedrop's done a great job of, and I believe is what they show on the maps here. Let me show you that. So you'll see here, they do show kind of going around this. Those are so, or excuse me, right here, going around and then off to the right. Excuse me, we're right here. So going into the chicane and then around, not the whole thing, and off to the right. And this is where you're going to go off, and right over here is going to be the road. And so they're going to run next to the road here. So this is now the purpose-built part of the circuit. Let me show you that in Google Maps. So you'll see right, you go up the hill, up and then around. See, I'm interested. I come up around the corner there, the roundabout there. Sorry, I forgot for a second what it's called. And then you're going to be flying along here in this custom-built area. You see this big dirt area. It seems to have been reserved, or it's going to be used for the Formula One circuit. Not a lot to demolish, so it looks like it could be done quite quickly. Love this straight section here, and then you'll have the banked corner, which is, obviously going to be like one of the signature things. I've now heard that it's going to be 35 degrees, so actually slightly steeper. Excuse me, 25 degrees, I think. It's going to be slightly steeper than Zandvoort, is my understanding, the final banked corner there, which is, going to be quite impressive, quite fast, maybe multiple lines. It's going to cut a little bit of this kind of, I think this is maybe like a soccer park or something like that, or maybe just a park of some sort. It looks like a soccer park. So if you have a little bit, it's going to be cut off here, but I don't think that'll be too big of an issue, and maybe you'll make some money for the park. I don't know how the government finances work over there. If you lose land for one purpose, that you get more for your budget the next year. I believe this is being privately funded, so who knows how this will end up working out. But if we look on the map here, you'll see it goes up and then into this section here, and this is still all purpose built. So if we jump back in Assetto Corsa here, you're going to see it goes along here. There's the grandstands we saw, and then you're really getting into this banked corner. I'm going to rise up a little bit here so you can kind of get a higher perspective. And you can see the big banking sweeped corner all the way around and through. So it's more than a 180-degree corner overall. And then you're going to come back in here and come here. And this is still purpose built. So, right, if they wanted to do, this is obviously, my assumption is, you'll have, remember that first DRS zone we saw kind of at the very beginning. My assumption is this won't be a DRS zone. There's just no passing opportunities. But coming out of the bank corner, I assume will be a DRS zone. And you will have this hard braking zone here, right here, which they can obviously profile however they want. They got a grandstand right here. These grandstands here will also be able to view this corner quite well. I think this is going to be probably, you got, depending on how this chicane works, might be a great passing opportunity, but I think this is going to be the corner, at least their idea for the corner for entertainment and passing. So you're going to come out of this, you're going to fly up the hill elevation change, up and around, and then all these grandstands are going to see this. You're going to fly around the bank corner, possible multiple lines here, cars jockeying for position, DRS opens, boom, all these cars jostling, boom, heavy braking zone. This is the action. Let me show you that here. This is going to be the action corner. You got a grandstand here. You're going to be able to sit here and view this corner. You're going to be able to view the banked turn here, this whole bank turn and in. Really going to be a fantastic, almost like a stadium section. I am thinking of like Hockenheimring. Interesting to see how they profile this as well. Right now, there's kind of a ridge here based off the height data. I expect that's going to be smooth to be a very nice, flat, wide corner, perfect for overtaking. That's in my opinion. Obviously now then we're starting to head back. You got another corner here, perhaps a chance for someone to throw something back up the inside, having to defend. Obviously this is still the purpose-built part of the section up until this corner where you're going to start rejoining the circuit. Show you that. So you're going to come up, boom, and then right in here, kind of on this sweeping corner, is what's going to rejoin you onto the main road. And if we look at Google Maps, we'll see that. So it's going to come up, around, you're going to go through, boom, heavy braking zone. This isn't going to be quite 90 degrees, so obviously not quite as much of a heavy braking zone, but still pretty good. And then you have this sweeping corner, which is going to still be all custom made. So this obviously could be another quite fun, sweeping, non-street-like corner. And then it's going to head right into here, which we will see in Assetto Corsa here in a second. So, right, this is going to be that sweeping type of corner. It's actually interesting when I'm driving this on the circuit. It's essentially blind. Here, let me get you down. So it's like just the way the elevation is, it kind of falls down in a way. With the wall there, this corner is essentially going to be a blind corner. Quite fast, almost flat, maybe flat, depending on the car and the conditions of the day. And then you're flying along, road to your right, highway to your right, and you're going to come straight into this, which is obviously going to be rejoining the street. And it's going to be a heavy braking area. Obviously, they're going to want to slow you down. Perhaps they're able to, slow it down enough that they don't need some sort of chicane or anything here, Mickey Mouse-ness. I do have a little bit of a worry that that won't necessarily be the case because, actually the Google map, here we go. Because this portion here, I believe these are a ramp here that goes up and on. So you're going to have to go early enough that you don't have the elevation change here that affects you. And that gives you a pretty decent run. So they might end up having to do some sort of chicane thing in here to slow the cars down before going under the underpass, which is a concern of mine. Now you're back on the roads, under the underpass, and now you're back in here. And the final sector, right, it's probably the least inspiring of the circuit. And there's not a lot I think they can do there, right? I've pointed out some things that I think they could make sure that they address. These overpasses in both areas, especially here, I think are critical sectors. This is the best elevation change into the custom part of the circuit, right? That is going to be potentially the breadwinner. But when you get into this part, there's not a lot you can do. 90-degree corners, it's a street track. You just kind of got to get back to the start-finish line. And so let me just show you that real quick. And so, here we are on now into kind of the city streets. I'm interested to see right here. This corner's quite fast on this circuit. Is this going to be the same on the actual streets? It does look like there would be the potential, right? You're obviously going across some lanes here. There definitely looks like there could be kind of these side roads. If you're willing to put some paving or reprofiling here, you could have quite a fast corner here, which that could help. And then you'd have quite a bit of speed into this corner here, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. This could even be a DRS zone. It'd be quite short. I think they'll probably just do the two I mentioned. Maybe you have one on the front straightaway as well. Yeah, they probably will put a DRS. So I guess that would probably be the third. But let's continue our tour of the circuit here. See, and then you go down. It could be DRS. It's not going to be, because they'll put DRS on the front straightaway. They want those fans to see some passing into that first turn, that chicane, which is one reason why they have the chicane there, so that there can be some passing right there in front of everyone. So it's going to be a little bit awkward, I think, at the start. Not necessarily the greatest thing. It'll spread the cars out, but if the rest of the circuit allows for passing opportunities, then coming back around, we'll see. Like these left-right corners currently, especially in a street section, cars aren't probably going to be that close to each other or close enough to have, even with DRS, they might not be in DRS zone, or they'd probably be on the edge of that 1 second. So legitimately, realistically, this is a shorter straight here. Probably not going to really be that much passing here unless you're kind of either overtaking a backmarker car, or for some reason you end up in a Red Bull starting in 15th position or something. So you'll see just these 90 degrees to finish the circuit out. So that is generally kind of my thoughts on the circuit, right? A tour of it, giving kind of a detailed look, comparing it to real life pictures here. Let me know. I can do this more often for other circuits that come out, kind of comparing them with what we have in sim racing games for circuits that are in development or whatever. And also just generally, I can look at photos and do something like this in Google Maps. So hopefully this has given you kind of an insight into certain things, kind of reiterate some of the key points here before I close out the video. But this definitely doesn't need to be Mickey Mouse. You got such a good kind of flowing sequence here, fast, nice braking zone here. Could be a great passing opportunity. Boom, up the hill. The quick elevation change. I'm not saying this is going to be like a Spa, Radion or Le Rouge, I think. Anyways, corner. But it could be a fun corner that then leads into this part of the circuit where they get to customize it and make it great for racing. A spectacle with a bank corner, DRS, boom, heavy braking zone. This is going to be like a stadium section, a lot of action, a lot of fun. Could be a great place for a ticket, And then, boom, back into the city. You got to this part. You just got to get back to start finish line, and it all starts again. So if they do it right, you could have, I think, even up to maybe this corner, if you did it well. If this was wide, you give plenty of runoff so people feel confident throwing up the inside here. This is smooth and a sweeping corner, so cars carry speed, and it's not Mickey Mouse here either. You could almost have, I could say, from this part of the circuit to this part of the circuit be really good. And the rest of it, it's fine. But it could also be, this could break up the flow of this where there's not a good passing opportunity. This could be janky, which then breaks up the flow of this part. And suddenly now you're just stuck with the Sector 2 portion being the only really good portion of the track. And when you're replacing a circuit like Barcelona, the standards that they're going to hold you to, the fans are going to hold you to, and all of that is just frankly going to be higher than if you were just doing this in a country you hadn't visited to. Well, let's say this was somewhere in South Africa or Egypt or something, and a track along this lines was created. People wouldn't have an issue. The problem is there is a higher standard if you're going to pull a classic track like Barcelona off the calendar. And at this point, there are some decisions that Formula One's going to have to make that are going to be critical to see whether this is actually worth replacing a track like that. In my opinion, I wish they had done alternating schedule, where for the next 10 years, they would have alternated every other year with Barcelona, and that hopefully the correct decisions are made with this circuit. So we're stuck with this circuit for the next 10 years, like it or not. So hopefully, Formula One, the FIA, the circuit designer, which is probably going to be Herman Tilke, and the city of Madrid work together to actually give us a venue that is fun, right? They're getting a ridiculous amount of money for this circuit. I think of 500 million or something like that over 10 years, which is insane. I think something like it breaks down almost like 48 million of that is going to be funded, and they have already put in the 2 million of it per year. I don't know. I've seen some crazy numbers being floated around. And so ultimately, right, this circuit is going to be on the calendar, and hopefully they get it right. So we'll see how it develops. Obviously, the version for Assetto Corsa will be adjusted based on kind of major feedback points that come out. And it'll be exciting, and perhaps, we'll be revisiting this track again, I assume, later once there's more bigger update done to it, or obviously as the Madrid Grand Prix approaches. I could really see this being something that I feature again in late 2025, early 2026 as that season approaches. So hopefully this has been helpful and a good insight to the 2026 Madrid Street Circuit, which will be hosting the 2026 through 2035 Spanish Grand Prix. So hope you enjoyed this. Hope it was good insight. But most of all, I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your week.